One. Welcome everyone to a very special World Organization of Energy and Frequency as Medicine stream. We have two of the most eminent and innovative thought leaders and medical leaders, research leaders in the areas of the biology of hope. We have Shari Watkins, co-founder of the Christian Entertainment Network, and Dr. Lemmon, who is the founder of Rediscover Health Natural Medicine. And of course, I'm your host, Carolina Billings. And we are all board members of the World Organization of Energy and Frequency Medicine, done with all of the full transparency releases. So both of you are incredible people within your practices and within your clinical work and practical work. And you both, one of the things that I'm so excited to speak with our friends and audience today is the role of faith in frequency and hope when it comes to dealing with chronic conditions such as cancer. So Shari Jo, you're a cancer survivor and you're very open about it, so I'm not disclosing any confidentiality. What was the transformation? Because you were a woman of faith before cancer, and you're a cancer survivor, thank God. And what has been the transformation that brought you to sharing your message to the world?
So for me, honestly, cancer was, not to sound disrespectful to a disease that deserves none, but cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me because I got to decide if I'm really the person that I claim to be. I got to decide if I can show up the way that I teach other people to. And, and I got to decide if I was really going to live by the faith that I have. And so, every single day I got to decide, not my battle, just my body, not my battle, just my body. And it was because of that. I'm a mindset coach with a doctorate in divinity. So, it was that moment in life where I got to decide, like, am I who I claim I am? And I will never cheat myself out of enough rest, water, good food, and sleep, because I didn't know I could feel this good. I didn't know I could feel this good.
And Dr. Lemmon, you're a doctor, a physician, but cancer is very personal to you. Can you tell us a little bit of how we got to your book, Cancer and the Biology of Hope?
Yeah, back in 2012, my younger sister was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and I was many states away going to school at the time, and just found out over email basically that she was diagnosed with cancer, and that her very first visit with her oncologist, they said you had 0% chance of survival. And then she passed away within 6 weeks after that. And so it was just really brutal, where I was in the middle of my medical school training and learning about all these amazing things that can be done, and the different medicinal mushrooms and herbs that have all these anti-cancer properties. But I was so far away, and so didn't have my book available that I could just send her and give her all those resources in one package. And so she tried a few little things and went to a Gerson center for a couple of weeks with her husband. But she left behind 2 young kids, and it was just really unbelievably painful experience. And so it taught me a lot of humility, as far as sometimes cancer is just God's way of sending his children home, back to him. But it also fueled that fire within me to not want anyone else to ever have to go through that if I can help it. And so that's why I wrote this book, and that's why I'm here, and to share that message that there is always hope. There are hundreds of different things you can do, whether or not medical science says there is or not. And so that can be used complementary with with your oncologist, or if your oncologist says there's nothing you can do, then you can wrap that around your 100% natural treatment plan as well. So either way that you go, all those remedies and resources are there.
Yeah. Now, faith, for the three of us is living and breathing, right? And we understand that faith is not faith unless it's tested, right? That's how you know that it is faith, that it is, like you said, that you actually get to practice, your convictions. Now, we often do not hear a lot of doctors speaking of religion or speaking of spirituality. Sorry, I shouldn't call it religion. It's really spirituality, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about Dr. Lemmon, because you speak of love, you speak of spirituality as part of the day-to-day living with a chronic condition. This is not about the medicine, this is not about the diagnosis, this is not about the protocol. It's the actual every single day how you choose to show up, right? Just like Shari Jo was saying. What surprises you the most when you meet people who have been diagnosed or their loved ones have been diagnosed, and you introduce the concept of hope?
Yeah, I think culturally it is, we've talked about before, it's kind of treated as a 4-letter word, that it's this weak, wishy-washy word that's, oh yeah, I hope I get a good grade on that test, or, kind of more of a flippant definition or perception of the word hope. But like we've talked about on previous episodes, hope for me in that definition, kind of in that biblical context of faith, hope, and charity, it's kind of that triad of the most powerful forces in the universe, right? You have faith, you have hope, and you have love. And when those are bound together, that is what connects you to God, and that's what connects you to the rest of our human family. And so that is kind of the way I approach hope, that it's a force of absolute power, of seeing that bright future possibility, and then using your faith and your love to take those steps forward into that powerful vision of the future.
Yeah, and you mentioned during our conversations, I mentioned the placebo effect, which a lot of people may think that is what faith is, and that's the role of prayer or spirituality once you're faced with a diagnosis. But you mentioned the contrary, like your sister was told, okay, you're not going to survive it, you have 6 weeks. And if you only believe 100% what the oncologist or the doctor saying, there's a word for it, that is the antithesis of the placebo. What was it you said, Dr. Lemmon?
The nocebo effect.
The nocebo effect. And that is like ruling out, you hear these, and actually in conversations, I came across a nurse practitioner, whose entire business is to go with people go with people to their medical appointments, because you're like in so much shock, or you stop listening, you're no longer processing, right? Or you may hear only portions of it. So she's there to like listen and translate, and what does it mean, and what he said or she said, the doctor said or didn't say. So I love that. Is something that when you hear words with such finality, like, oh, you only have 4 months to live, you only have 6 months to live. That's not always the case, right? That's where it comes in. So Shari Jo, you are a woman of faith already, right? So how what surprised you the most about having to show up as a woman of faith when your faith was being tested?
So, I'm a little bit of a different bear sometimes. I am that girl when, when they say it can't be done, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it can be. Let's figure it out. And, not everybody gets the same outcomes that I do, as Dr. Lemmon's sister did not. But, I think for me, so much of it was deciding. It was deciding and then making sure that I followed through on the actions. What I was surprised by so much during my journey was the number of people that just wouldn't do the things. Like, they just wouldn't do the things. And so,
What do you mean by the things?
like any of the things, all the things, like, I don't feel like eating today, so I won't, right? I
Oh,
don't feel good, so I won't. But if I don't eat, and if I don't get the calories, if I don't get the protein, if I don't get all the things, then my platelets drop and then I can't have my treatment and then I'll die. And so there were so many people that they just, they wouldn't. For me, like, when I move, God moves, right? God, there's action that's involved with it, right? And I had to decide how I was going to drive my own conversation, how I was going to respond or not respond, right? And other people sometimes don't have that. They don't have that. We're human, right? And from a biblical perspective, we're always going to see the car wreck before the tree, because the nature of man is sin. And so, we just simply, we go there. And so right from the get-go, I was like, okay, when they said, Shari Jo, you got about a 20-25% chance here. It's bad, it's aggressive, it's fast, and I could have been like, oh, okay, now what, right? But, I knew when I was going for that appointment that I knew what they were going to say, because, your breast doesn't get deformed in a month and it not be something bad, right? So, like, when I left the house, I told my husband, listen, I'm going to go through this thing, and when I come back, we're going to talk about cancer. Right. And so I drove the boat myself differently. Like, I said, okay, I'm not going to let people speak death and illness over me. I'm going to make sure that I come at it with faith. Right. And so I did all the things. And so I was like, okay, here's what God says about this. Right. Because I know that his word will not return to him void. And it was up to me to do those things. And I think so many times people don't have they hear the words, they get afraid, and they think it's an ultimatum. And sometimes we don't get to go all the way through it on the other side. And also, I think we get the opportunity sometimes to do the things, right?
yeah.
And so yes was my answer. Yes was my answer to all the things.
And what you both have in common is you both have a deep value, and not just the value, because behavior is a language in my world. You really live your words through community, the support of community, because that makes all the difference in the world, right? And I've experienced it at a minute. Cancer usually runs in families or heritage. It's a big part lifestyle sometimes, but I've been blessed that in my family, we have not been touched by. We've been touched by many things, but cancer has not been one of them. And but in studying mindfulness, right, for my career, and just that integration of a certain personal philosophy into your everyday life, I remember having a bit of a meltdown once. And somebody, my friend that was with, yes, I know, so rare, they laugh because they know me. So I was having a little bit of a meltdown. And this friend that was with me said, oh, there's Miss Mindfulness. That's so not fair. Like, I'm still human. And I said, the thing about mindfulness is that it doesn't remove all emotion. It just makes your recovery faster, or your awareness of it faster, right? So you can walk yourself back from the ledge faster. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. So when the importance of community, and that everyone's on the same page, or at least if they don't agree with you, that they respect the choices you're making when it comes to faith and when it comes to hope. I'd love to hear your take on both, from both of you. Sorry.
Okay. Go ahead, doctor.
So community and the role of faith.
Yeah, just what the support.
Yeah, so the 7 pathways of healing that I talk about in the book, the social pathway of interacting with others, having that social support group, and church congregations are amazing for that, where you have the spiritual pathway and the social pathway kind of merged together, where you have that unity in common and the social network together. And so that's a really powerful way that I talk about. If you fallen away from a church congregation, it's be good to find one again, and to find one that resonates with you, that you can have that social and spiritual connection and community, because having people pray for you has been scientifically studied to improve quality of life and length of life, and those things for in placebo-controlled studies. And it's hard to study prayer, and it doesn't really need to be studied, because it's kind of in that invisible world that is run by faith instead of scientific
you believe or you
studies. But
don't.
it's still
It's not an
interesting.
intellectual discourse kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
But it can
it's still
be.
interesting when those studies do come out that prayer does have. I was just listening to an audiobook this morning about Larry Dossey and his studies about the scientific studies about prayer and its effects on human health. And so it's really amazing to have that community, that social support, family and friends that are praying for you and your health and your welfare. And that really makes all the difference for a lot of people.
And of course, you got your community of practice, within PwC Global. We're so happy about it. And it matters. It matters, right? That you are in a group that is open, has an open mind and an open heart, that you may not have in your immediate community, right? And it's not because they don't love you or they don't want you to get better, but they may not believe what you believe. And that just adds a layer of doubt, right? When you're trying to focus and have hope and faith and believe, in the extraordinary, because it occurs every single day. And there's so much we don't know, right? And you, of course, Sherry Joe, have the Christian Entertainment Network, which the word entertainment doesn't do it justice, because you have so many coaches and well, we got Dr. Lemmon as one of our mentor experts within that roster as well. Like, is really, if you, whatever you consume around you, like from music to entertainment to content to everything, when you're trying to rebuild, right, your hope and faith and healing, how important is that?
It's everything. It's everything. I mean, not everything, of course. I mean, I thought I said that very broadly. For me, it was so much of everything, because, I found, I spent an entire day. I went up and down Walmart. I'm like, okay, how can I get the most protein and the least amount of food with the most amount of calories? And then I had to say, okay, what am I going to feed myself otherwise, right? And so, I started saying, okay, I found all the healing scriptures, right? And I started listening. There's a 6-hour and 22-minute thing that I listen to. I still listen to it at nighttime, from John Hagee, right? That starts off with a declaration of, this is what I believe, right? And this is what the word says. And if I don't feed myself the good stuff all the time, right? Even just as a everyday human beyond cancer, if I don't feed myself the good stuff, the world will tell me what isn't. Like, it'll provide you all the contractions, the can'ts, the don'ts, the isn'ts, the won'ts, the shouldn'ts, and you start talking about being a survivor, and somebody's like, oh, my uncle died. Oh, my friend was clean for a while, and it just came back 3 times. And so
Like,
you
people
have
say horrible things without realizing that they're saying them and doing them.
You got to protect yourself, right? And if you're not solid on what you're doing and how you're showing up, the world will decide for you, right? Like what he said there, that power of that community is so strong. You've got to know who you are and who you're letting in.
Yeah, and of course you got your community of practice with our PwC Global as well. But it's also what I just heard in what both of you said is the importance to be around people that understand what you're going through, because you will have good days, you will have bad days, right?
Mhm.
And you just gotta hope that you have days to rebuild, right? Heart, body, and soul. And you know what? There's been miracles that people cannot explain. My father was a doctor, and I remember him having a plaque in his office. It was in Spanish, so I'm not doing it justice translating, but it was something along the words that if the patient survived, it was the Virgin or God, right? If the patient died, it was the doctor. That's who we blame, right? But is really, knowing those good and bad days. And I love the work that you both are doing. And one of the big reasons why I truly believe in your messaging and we go above and beyond to share it with the world. Not everything is written. We don't understand everything. There's miracles that occur, people that heal, people that that science cannot explain. And I'm a woman of science too, although I'm an academic, not a physician or clinician. But science is not all, right? It is something. Like, I'm not saying staring into the fire is a strategy, but you do need to consider both and have that balance. With Dr. Lemmon, 7 pathways, with you, Shari Jo. I know you're Dr. Watkins, but I know you like to be called Shari Jo. With you is really, that community that champions you and cheers you on. So I thank you both for the work that you do with the WEFM, with the World Organization of Energy and Frequency Medicine. We're all three of us are members of our board. There's a lot more people for this year, 26, 27, and we invite all of you, like, connect. We'll put the link to connect with Shari Jo, to connect with Dr. Lemmon. I love to get the references of the podcast you were listening to or the book you were listening to, Dr. Lemmon. And you have shared some music with me that I would have never found it, right? Because it's just not a genre that I'm familiar with, but it's lovely and uplifting. And you know what? The spirituality has a biological reality in our everyday life, because it alters cells, because it alters your body's listening to you. So when you put in good things like healing and hope and spirituality and in energy and frequency and all good yummy things, your body knows. Your body knows. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, both of you. And we'll be having more sessions about it. And if you have any questions, we'll put the link in. Like, you guys are beyond generous in sharing your knowledge and in serving the world. So thank you for that. And until next time, do connect with them, though. We'll put the links below.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Guys.
Bye-bye.